Thank you for joining this episode of Beyond the Bench podcast. And this episode, I have some very interesting characters to talk with you tonight. To the left of me, I have Mr. Charles Sanson, is a Toyota technician. And to the right of me, I have blank.
Austin Yarbrough.
All right. And bad with names, which is a Toyota technician as well. And we're going to talk a little bit back beyond the type of work that we do and some things that they run into in the industry and kind of potential fixes that we come up with, the bulletins that are created because of us. Charles, introduce yourself to everybody.
I'm Charles Sanson. I was Toyota technician for 4.5 years. I fixed a lot of cars, including limit law buybacks, very weird problems with vehicles. If it was the weird stuff that came through the dealership, I wanted it. Just because you can further your knowledge, further your education level. You can teach other guys. You can talk back to the manufacturer, tell them what you found, possibly create a bulletin for something, help other people out in the industry.
All right, Austin, let's introduce yourself. You're new to this game.
Yeah, I'm Austin Yarbrough. I have been a Toyota technician for 10 years now. I really like the stuff that makes me scratch my head.
I've been in for 10 years. Dang, I didn't know that one until today.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you're seeing right now and in the industry as far as the work that you see coming in? I know you do flat rate and customer pay. You're at a dealership.
Yeah.
So how is that working out and the things that you're seeing?
It works out really, really well. Really enjoy where I work at. I love where I work. It's probably the best dealer I've worked at. I see a lot of warranty concerns here lately. I deal with a lot of that because I'm a seasoned technician and I know what to look for.
Okay. That process, mostly when you're dealing with warranty, how does that process work with as a technician on the technician side?
So we'll get the vehicle. If it has, this complaint, you bring it in, start running time on the ticket because that's a big thing. Toyota wants you to run time on everything that's warranty. You start looking over the vehicle. We use a fix it right the first time protocol, and it's verifying the customer's complaint, finding out what the problem is, and repairing it the right way the first time. And just by, following the diagnostic procedures from whatever DTC you have, or if it's a noise complaint or something, verify it first.
Yes. So when you're talking about punch times, when you have to punch onto the ticket, diagnostics in the industry is something that I know at the dealer side that some technicians get, like the dealer techs get a really bad rep from the fact that either they're not getting paid for diagnostic time or how they're dealing with that. How does that work specifically with Toyota? Like, how does it start when you punch on?
Okay, so when you punch on something, let's say you have a check engine light, you hook your scan tool up. You have to, once you get your code and everything, you print it out. You print that DTC sheet out. Then you clock off the ticket, clock back on it, and that is your scan tool time right there.
Okay.
Usually they pay you 0.2 for scan tool time, and then Toyota will pay up to 1.9 hours for diag as long as you have documentation where you have clocked on and off the ticket, tell them everything that you've done, and you have the proof to show that you've done it.
Okay. So at that point, when the diag starts and you've gotten to the root of the problem, do you submit anything to Toyota?
Usually we will just, if it's a part, we'll order the part. And then once the vehicle is repaired, we do our CCR, and then the warranty admin submits it to Toyota, and they usually don't really have a problem paying it as long as you got everything squared away.
Okay. So you don't have to send up pictures or request anything, or do you?
If it's an oil leak, yes, you have to have a picture of the oil leak. They really like to have the RO with the VIN in it, but they've kind of relaxed on that. They'll let you take a picture of the VIN plaque on the door now. But yeah, with any kind of leak, or if there's like a broken component inside the interior, they want pictures of that too. And when you return the part, they actually want you to circle the defect on the interior pieces.
Okay.
That's changed since I was there.
So tell me about it.
Yeah, like we didn't have to circle a defect. We would have to take a picture of any leaks with the RO number, the VIN in it. So taking of the door placard, or can you use the dash placard as well?
No, they want the door because it has the production date.
Yep. Okay. And then it has like the engine code and all that, and the transcode on it too. We didn't have to do that. We had to have the RO with the VIN and the leak. And yeah, Toyota does pay up to 1.9 for diag. If it's like a normal concern, no big deal. Just go ahead, order your part. If it's something more complicated where you got to make a task case and context tasks and go through that process, then it's going to be little bit more complicated to get your 1.9. Depending on what it is, you could get more than the 1.9.
Yep.
As long as you have proper documentation in your story. Everything you've done, like even better if you put pinouts.
Yeah.
And like I measured this voltage on this pin on this connector, you're more than likely going to get paid for it.
And also, if you have a task case, they definitely will pay you over 1.9 hours for diag.
Or like if you contact your FTS and they come out and they're working with you, the FTS can go on your task case, submit his notes under his name or her name.
Yep.
And that is more push to get you paid more diag time.
That's a lot more than what GM techs get paid. You know it from the Mopar side.
Yeah, zero. Yep, you get zero.
Yeah.
No diagnostics from Mopar.
They say that diagnostic is part of the repair.
I think myself and every technician and shop owner and everybody on the independent side outside of Mopar will agree with this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good. It leads to technicians just throwing parts of cars.
Yep.
Because if I'm not getting paid to accurately diagnose it, why am I going to accurately diagnose it? That's wasted time to me because it's affecting my paycheck.
Yep.
I'm just going to throw that part at it. Okay, didn't fix it. Let's do the next part.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the biggest part of the industry that gives the dealer technicians that actually know what to do, spend the quality time doing the repair and fixing it right the first time, don't care. And they get that bad rep because of that, because heck, I'm not getting paid for it. I'm just going to look at a code. If it's a typical part replacement, just order the part and maybe it fixes it, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't fix it, we'll move on from there.
Yeah. Like on the Pentastars, we would get PO 128. Everybody knows the thermostats are terrible on them. So we'd scan it, PO 128, give me a thermostat. Thermostat and a coolant flush. Yep. Go from there. There was no diagnostic involved with it because they don't pay you for it. And they only pay like 0.9, which is a good time for replacement. But if you're going to go in, you're going to let the vehicle cool down, run it, see how long it takes, see if it goes in the closed loop in a set amount of time per the diagnostic trouble tree. It's going to take you longer than the 0.9 to do that, to let it go back down, to change the thermostat, then bleed the cooling system and verify the repair of that. It's going to take you longer than 0.9.
Yeah, I like with GM 3.6 liters, like the latest generation that's out now, same thing happens with them with the thermostats. And it's a normal cause, an issue. Yes, the technicians will see that code and they'll immediately think, it's a thermostat. And there are a couple of instances where we've caught it where it's not. And it actually has a leak from somewhere and it comes in with no coolant.
Yep.
And then they just never look at the vehicle. They read the code, up an estimate for a thermostat or order a thermostat if it's under warranty. And then when they get the car in and like, oh, the radiator's cracked. Yeah, so that's a big issue with the industry, that the reason why the technician's not getting paid appropriately, warranty times being low, it's a big issue. What do you think about with warranty times with Toyota?
I honestly think that they're fair. They are fair. Toyota pays good warranty times. Some stuff they could do a little better, but I mean, for the most part, I don't mind it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like the fuel pump recalls, great times on them.
Yep.
Like the Camrys were the Corollas were 1 and 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Highlanders paid 3.5 at the beginning.
Yeah, the 3.4, then they dropped them to 2.9 if it had start stop.
Yep.
Which is a weird thing because the ones that didn't have start stop, there was no difference in the procedure at all.
Not at all.
They originally paid 2.9 and now they dropped it to 2.4.
Yep.
Which still beat it every single time.
Every time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I've seen a lot of technicians get, I don't know if it's favoritism at certain Toyota dealers as to why they would even leave. Now, I'll bring this subject up, what you said earlier about half of the shop that you have now, the older generation is already gone and there's a lot of newer technicians that are there.
Yeah, so we only have maybe just a few older technicians, and most of our shop is younger guys, newer guys that are coming in and they're going through training. That's one thing I will say about Toyota, that SET does train their technicians and they train them good. They send them to training, and we have techs that go to training like 2 times a month, and they're in what they call the TAC program. And
Yep.
Or if you're going through school and you're in the T10 program, you come out of school as a Toyota Master Tech.
Yep.
Like you already have all your certifications, all of your training. So you start off as a master.
Yep. And you
Yeah.
hit,
Which you do have to be working in a Toyota dealership to be in a T10.
Yep.
So you're in the dealership, you're working with the vehicles, which is a big plus.
Some of the engine issues that I know have been discussed about between Toyota and GM right now with that whole debacle, Toyota's handled everything like immediately straight up front, and GM has been way on the back burner 5 years later into this and trying to address the problem. You brought up something really interesting, what you're finding with the crank bearing. So what you didn't know about that until he showed you.
Yeah, I think I saw a video about it one time and just put it back in one of my filing cabinets. And then he mentioned it, and I was like, that's not really a necessarily good idea.
Yeah. So what's the thing that you saw wrong with it?
so the crank bearings, they do not have the notches that hold them in place.
So they're able to spin
Yes,
freely.
they're able to spin freely.
Yeah, and as soon as it spins, the whole supplied oil to it coming from the block blocked off.
Yep. No more oil supplied to that bearing.
And that's like how you were saying that it was the brace underneath, but when we started talking about how the bearings were actually designed, I was like, I think that is a more
Yeah.
bigger issue right there in that design flaw. Do you think that the updated engines were changed and they caught that, other than saying that there's debris in the block?
That I don't know because I wasn't there when
Well,
that all happened. That
Right.
happened about 3 months after I'd left.
They
Yeah.
say that they've redone it.
So
Well,
they've redesigned it
They say they have. I'm not sure.
because you've never taken a new
Right.
one,
Yeah,
Well,
I haven't
or had a
taken
new one have an issue.
Yeah, because they come as long blocks, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah. Which
Yep.
is the weird thing about Toyota. Like if you have a catastrophic engine failure, say the Forerunner I had that broke a valve or valve spring and floated the valve, they gave me a short block cylinder head and the valves and springs for that head. They wouldn't give me a long block.
Yeah.
So I had to reuse the old head on the other side
Yeah.
because the long block I think was 17,000 total with parts and labor, and the short block with the head was like 14,000.
So yeah, cost efficiency and difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because you're having to look at that as far as doing a cost comparison analysis, because we have to do that on the GM side entirely. Like every engine and transmission assembly, like we go into the transmissions and do repairs to them. But if it costs too much to fix versus replacing the unit, then we have to do a full cost comparison sheet and document everything. And if the dealership is under a restriction, meaning they have to call in TAC and they have to get a TAC case, send in the information, send in the cost comparison, and then get an okay from there. And then they make kind of the decision whether to say, okay, it's, we've got our bases covered, everything's in line, and it's okay to we have to get approval for that.
How do you guys get on the restriction?
Replacing things that you should not replace.
Which goes back to diagnosing it properly to begin with. Yep. Throwing parts at it.
Yeah. Like if you just, like if a truck comes in and has cam and lifter failure, and the same technician just immediately says, well, I can for an engine and just put an engine in it. Because if I get more time to do that, then this is a lot easier. I don't take nothing apart. If he does it back to back to back, and they submit everything and just run it through, and the warranty administrator does not catch it, the dealership gets flagged.
Yeah, they'll probably kick a claim or.
Yeah, they will. We had at the Chevrolet dealership that I was at, we had one of the guys that came from Toyota and to do nothing but transmissions. So he knows that over there, you guys don't do anything inside the unit
Nope.
whatsoever.
We replace.
The older ones, you could get like the internal harness and solenoids, like tearing it down, replacing clutch packs and bands and all of that. Nope, don't touch it.
Yeah. We don't.
Yeah.
Don't allow us to.
Yeah. So he came over directly from Toyota with that mentality and wasn't trained in anything, any process with
No,
GM, and was just
no.
replacing 6L80 transmissions back to back.
He was set up to fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was set up to fail. And that's a bigger thing in the industry, is that setting up the people that you're working with or that you're hiring. And like if you got a new guy that comes in, got a new guy that's here now, and he came from Florida, and there's a lot of stuff that I had to know and understand about him, of what he's used to doing and what he's not used to doing and never has done. And It was a bit of learning curve, but it's more of like engaging with the other person to know exactly and help them along because they're used to doing certain type of line work and not like heavy diagnostics. Doesn't really do that kind of stuff, and was thrown tickets to do this and to do that. Where most of the guys here kind of do everything except Ben that does all of the diesel stuff, but he does electrical too.
Yeah.
Like anything that has the diesel truck, he does that. So that's his main thing, and I deal with all the stuff that nobody wants to figure out or is an in-depth problem and a recurring issue. I get to the root of the problem and spend all the time in it, document everything, and get paid.
And that goes back to training. I mean, new guy coming in that's from another brand, you got to get them up to speed on the brand that they're coming into.
Yeah.
Like they're going to come in with the knowledge they had from there. Every brand operates differently. So if you just throw them to the wolves, mistakes are going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah,
And it's
and
all
those
about
are big.
procedure, which gets the dealership in the end in trouble, and not just the technician.
Yeah, because there's quite a few of them that, like with the Hummer EVs we were talking about earlier, that there's an entire process that they have to physically go through step by step. If they miss one check, an engineer is on the phone, go back, do this, all of this, just check, make sure all of this stuff is done because of how volatile the battery packs are and how dangerous these things actually are.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get them wet.
No, not at all.
So goodbye to the dealership.
That'd be a big old fire there.
Was. So, Austin, when you got into the industry, how did you really get into it?
Well, I was working at a Shane's Rib Shack, and my uncle was a technician for Toyota, and they fired a lube tech, and he told me, he was like, come up here now. He was like, come up here and talk to the boss, get a job. And I went up there, talked to her, and she hired me on the spot. And,
That's good.
I started working, and not only was she a boss, she was more of a mentor than
Yeah,
anything.
that's good.
She taught me a lot before she actually set me off and to go to another dealership. And she actually helped me find the dealership that I was going to move to.
That's good having a support like that, especially getting in. 'Cause I know that there's a lot that don't do that. The dealership mentality is to put a warm body in a bay, turn a wrench. But it's good to have people and to know that there are people out there. There's a lot of technicians that just are treated so horribly when they're just getting in. And I'm feared for one right now. And that's the truck that has death in the diesel tank.
Ooh. Yeah.
And a simple mistake just cost the dealer $20,000
It can happen that quick too.
because he fired it up and didn't realize it.
Yeah. That's the whole fuel system.
Yeah, that one's he's been here for some time. He's a really good tech, and a lot of us are like kind of maybe up in the air of what may happen. But I mean, that's a simple mistake. And do know, guys, that things in the industry do happen.
Yeah, mistakes happen every day.
Every single day.
And if you say you've never made a mistake, you started yesterday and you haven't actually turned a wrench yet. Everybody makes mistakes. It happens.
I still do it to this day.
Yep. Or you're lying through your teeth.
Yep.
Be honest about it. You got a better chance of saving your job.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, look, I did this. It's my fault. I made this mistake. I am sorry.
Yeah.
This is the procedure that I'm going to change so that I don't do this again.
And honesty, that's the biggest policy. If you're
Yeah.
honest, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be all right.
It's like when you get pulled over by the police or something.
Yeah.
Just be honest with them.
Yeah.
And you got a chance of getting out with a warning or no ticket or anything like that. But if you argue with them, you're going home in handcuffs.
Yeah, absolutely.
The same thing applies to the dealership world.
Yep.
And even the independent world.
Yeah. It's that. So you've worked in the independent side a lot.
Yeah. I think 14 years of my career now. I started in an independent, did that 10 years. Then I went to another independent shop for 2.5. And then I was at the last independent for like a little over a year. Going on exotic vehicles. That was fun. It's nothing like taking a Lamborghini Huracan with a blown up engine. And like, yeah, we need 40 hours to pull it out, pull it apart.
Yeah, like quoting stuff like that, like heavy diagnostics and labor R&R time. Are you looking to get into what is this? I hope I'm saying this right. Supra certified.
Boy,
I don't want to touch the BM.
If you don't want to touch,
I don't care about it. I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm all right on that.
why not?
Well, okay. Well, for one, we no longer have that contract with BMW no more. So the
Yeah,
Supra
that's
is
awful.
not being made anymore. We already have a super certified guy
Okay.
that they
So you
sent
already
to
got a guy.
school. Yeah. And the way they see it is there's only so many of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't sell very well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we have our one guy. Why send another guy to school and
Right.
have him out of work?
Until he leaves or retires
Yeah.
or something like that, then you're in a panic mode.
Yep.
Because every Toyota dealership has to have at least one Toyota certified,
Super
or
tech.
super certified.
Okay.
Yep.
So what
Otherwise,
happens if they don't?
they can't sell them.
Yep.
Oh, they
Work
can't
on 'em.
sell them. They can't
And
sell
like
them.
if they got one on the showroom floor, it's a stop sale on it.
Yep. And I don't think they can work on them either, can they?
No, they can't.
Yeah.
Even
Anything
trade it
warranty,
in?
you can't.
Used
Um,
car?
If it's out of warranty, they can't.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So if it's out of warranty, but if it's under warranty, no.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is like, I didn't mind working on them. Like being at Mercedes, it was no big deal to me. And they're like, oh, you can work on anything that's customer pay. Like, I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
Like every single Toyota technician was like, I don't want to touch it. It's like, "Oh, it's fine, I'll work on it. It's no big deal."
That's the good thing that I like about Charles and what he says, that everything is nothing but nuts, bolts, and wires.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what to him. It's all the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, when you
It comes apart. It breaks, you fix it.
Yep.
Yeah, you come down to the basics, they all operate the same. The way they operate is different. You just got to figure out how they're doing the exact same process that another brand is doing on their brand. It's all the same. Engine's still pistons, rods, crank, cam, water pump. It's all the same.
Yeah, the complexity of like the diagnostics. When we get into things where you've got a chewed wire or a frayed wire or something that's shorted out, or you have water intrusion into a vehicle, or you have something that's acting weird, but it only hacks a certain way on a certain time of day in a certain place that the vehicle is actually placed. And I've seen that before. How do you feel like charging diagnostic time like this to consumer if it would take a week and a half to figure out?
That's difficult. You approach them like as a service advisor level, you would approach them and be like, this is a very intermittent issue. Let's start with X amount of hours. If it takes us less time to find it, we'll charge you less time. But we're going to start here. When we get there, I'm going to call you and say, these are the tests we've done. These are the things we found. We haven't found it yet. We're going to need more time. Are you okay with another 2-3 hours? And we'll keep updating you for this process.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be like, what's your cutoff limit?
Yeah.
Like what's
Yeah,
your
and you
cutoff
know
limit?
what the budget is, what the cutoff limit is, how far you want to go into it, if it's something that intermittent or it's something that will send you. Have you ever said something that was a problem that would send you through an entire list of separate different bulletins, but would all be related to the same component?
Absolutely. Siennas, the doors.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Oh, they had a warranty extension on the doors. There's like what, 3 actuators, then locks, motor, of course,
The
and then
cables.
cables, and the harness.
Yep.
And there were extensions on each individual piece. So they would bring them in like, yeah, my door's not working. And every single piece would fail,
Yep.
but they only want you to replace the one failed part. So you would do your diagnostic, you would replace that part. And then 2 weeks later, another part would have failed because they all will go out.
Yep.
So the way that you would word it to replace everything is up to your story and up to your advisor.
Yep.
But when they come in with that, it's like, do everything. It's extended, so the customer's not paying. Do everything to keep them from coming back. To the customer, my door doesn't work. Okay, it works now. Well, now my door doesn't work again. They don't understand that there's more components in there.
Yep.
And trying to explain that to them is like, oh yeah, now we got to do this part. You don't exactly like that.
Yeah, and it makes it seem like we haven't fixed their car to begin with.
Right.
You know.
Fixed right the first time.
What I have since most of the time, that depending on year, make, and model of the SUVs and pickup trucks that have the 8L90 in it, so many variations are changed between year models and software calibrations, updates, lists of bulletins, and some of them can have been into before, and then I've got to do my best to look into any kind of history, engaging with the customer to make sure that is this the only vehicle that you've ever owned? How long have you, I'll say it this way. How long have you owned the vehicle? Since the day you bought it? And has it ever been into the dealership for a warranty repair? So like even if I didn't have access to anything, or if I called Toyota and said, hey, look, I've got a vehicle over here. Here's the VIN. Can you give me some of the warranty history on this?
Heaven forbid it's been to an independent shop and somebody's been in there.
Yeah.
Because you don't have access to that at that
Nope.
point.
Yeah. And I've had that with those units. And most of the time I can gauge a starting point and figure out, what's going to have to be updated, what's going to be changed, how much we're going to go through software, and how much time is invested into diagnosing some of this stuff, because it would be, if it's between a split year model and then worrying about that kind of stuff, it's so involved. It was for 4 years. I refused to touch them.
Yeah.
Until I studied enough to be competent to put my hands on it.
Yeah, like the Highlander transmissions.
Yep.
Like you would have to get the serial number off of it and compare it to, we made the change at this exact serial number.
Yep. And then that determined if you replaced the transmission or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, it shifts harder, it slips in this gear.
Yep.
Then you would verify that. And then you would be like, okay, well, it's within this range. Okay, it's fine. We'll replace it. No big deal. But if it still did that outside of the range, I mean, still going to get replaced, but it won't be covered under the extension.
Yep.
Which goes back to people throwing parts at it. Like if Toyota calls that transmission back and like, oh, this wasn't covered.
Yeah.
Flag.
Yep.
Charge back.
That technician is getting back flagged for that whole job.
Yep.
Yeah. We had that discussion talking about how the manufacturer pays the dealership pays the technician. So in that one, in a situation where something goes south and it was somebody else's fault, but you did everything that you were supposed to do and was told that everything's covered, and somebody says, well, this conversation never happened, and tries to blow it off because somebody else made an error in submission.
Yep.
Blame the other guy. The dealership should take the hit.
They should,
Right.
absolutely.
If it was done, if you did everything and you repaired the vehicle correctly and you did it right and to the best of your knowledge and the best of your ability, you should never, ever get charged back.
No, I agree.
Now, if you've done something wrong, like you didn't look, oh yeah, I didn't look at the serial number. It's outside. I didn't look at that. I just threw one in and said it was under warranty. You didn't do your due diligence.
Yep.
Like that's your fault.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you didn't follow the procedure and you get a kick, okay, you learn. Yep. It's a mistake. You're going to learn from it.
What about the timing cover reseal?
Yeah.
Oh man, that one was funny. The guy who did it before me didn't clean nothing off of it, and he just refibbaged it and set it back together, and that thing leaked like crazy. And I had to go back over it and fix it.
Well, we were talking about that one. I would spend so much time cleaning gasket surfaces.
Me too.
Carbide scraper, Scotch Brite, spray it off with brake clean, get a white towel, spray the towel down, wipe the surface down until it doesn't have any of that black residue come off of it. The cleaner the surface, the better the bond.
Yep.
The less chance of a comeback.
Yep. And also the amount of fibbage you apply really does matter.
What squeezes out, squeezes in.
Yeah.
And it will flake off and get stuck in the oil pickup too.
Yep. And it will get in oil passages too if you do a cam tower. And
Yeah.
you
Just look at the FA20. Like when they had the recall with the valve spring recall on the FRS and the 86s.
Yep.
Technicians were taking the cover off to get the cams out, to put the valve springs in it. And they would put too much hip pig on it.
Yep.
Put it back on, and it was blocking oil passages, and they were blowing engines.
God.
Yep.
it was a thing.
Trying to find a shortcut.
Yep.
Trying to find a shortcut. That's like most of the guys that I've ever trained, and two of them are here. And anytime that I brought them in, started them off doing anything, I tell them, go to the service information the first time that you've ever done it, and I want you to walk through it page by page and understand where you can find either a little bit of speed and repetition in it, and it gets you to understand what you're taking apart, why you're taking it apart, and maybe some other things that you may find along the way. That harness doesn't look like it needs to be routed that way.
It kind of reminds me of the, I think it's Cap Cut with Sheldon going through, hey, why? Why? Oh, that's why.
So
Yeah, I agree with you there. Even if it's a job I've done a million times, I still have the repair manual pulled up and I still skim through it every single time.
Yeah, because they'll change things in it.
Yeah, they will.
Like Toyota will highlight them in red when they change
Yep.
things. And they don't tell you they changed it. I mean,
Nope.
there'd be too many emails going out and things like that. So, I mean, if they change the procedure to correct the problem that they were seeing, it's in the service manual.
Yep.
But they don't tell you they changed it.
Nope. That's why I always go through it.
Do you have ability to submit and request a document change and updated information, and why? That GM's got that too.
It's a big process, but yeah,
You can do it.
you need to submit pictures.
Yep.
Takes a lot of time, which is where the 1.9 and you get extra from comes in because
Oh,
it's been
definitely. Yeah, because the way GM does it basically is you get up to an hour diagnostics in US and Canada, and anything that you punch on beyond that would be an OLH if it calls or if it takes more time for diagnostics, especially electrical. Then you'll have OLH that would be in between or straight time. And if the failed component has its own labor op, they determine that by clock time, the technician doing time studies, and then they add 24% to it to come up with their warranty labor times. And then anything overlapping, you got to kind of figure out if there's any overlap in between. If there's something with two components that are in the same vicinity with a fracture or a break point, and then having to figure that out, but that's added time.
Now, you said US and Canada. So is that only US and Canada?
Yes, only US and Canada gets up to an hour. Everybody else gets up to 0.3.
So the weird thing, Toyota, we can do recalls on Canadian vehicles.
Yep.
But there is a lot of paperwork involved with them.
Yes.
Now at Mopar, if it's a Canadian vehicle, if you buy it in Canada, bring it to the United States and it has 1 mile on it, you have no warranty at all. Zero. Not even a 336. You have zero warranty. It has to go back to Canada to be repaired.
Dang.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
It's
Everything from
insane,
GM has
isn't
to
it?
get transferred.
You can't do it with Mopar. So yeah, if you buy a Canadian vehicle and bring it to the United States, you don't have a warranty on your vehicle at all. And customers get really upset about that, rightfully so. It's the exact same vehicle, but they cannot do any warranty work on it.
So what kind of direction do you see as the automotive industry going for technicians?
It's going to be a lot more electronics. There's going to be more complicated failures coming out as we make systems more, let's say, intuitive to the user, like the park aid assist and the lane keep assist and the self-driving technology. That's more friendly to the user. But that system is going to be way more complicated than hitting your brake pedal and turning your steering wheel. So one failure, you were talking about what was the shift solenoid or the neutral switch shorted out through the brake light intermittently.
Yeah, with that
Yeah.
cab, that box truck. Yeah.
Like you wouldn't think that, oh yeah, the neutral switch, why is that tied into the brake light on the left side of the vehicle? Like,
Yeah, the power for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Power supplied to the brake lights. It's also powered.
as technicians, we look at it as like, why? Yeah,
Doesn't make sense.
I don't know if that's an upfitter deal or
yeah, it could be.
it's been so long I can't remember the wiring diagram of how I actually found it. Because I pulled the dash apart, looked at the connectors in between the front of the cab that are going all the way back down to the transmission, all the way back to the PCM, and all throughout. Because we really didn't have the access to a lot of that information. I was literally calling the manufacturer.
I did that with Fiat. We had one come in. It was an early production 2012. They had an oil viscosity sensor in them. It was disabled from Fiat for the American market. If your oil was too cold, the vehicle wouldn't start in Italy. And they're basically the Mopar guys came to Fiat when they were bringing them over. They're like, you know, Americans, we're not patient. We can't have that on this vehicle. You're going to work, you're running late, you go out and it's cold outside and your car won't start because the oil's too thick. So it was either the left rear brake light or turn signal fuse was blowing. Nowhere in the wiring diagram did it say that it went through the oil viscosity sensor. And I ended up finding it by unplugging the motor side of the ECU when the fuse would quit blowing. So I'm like, well, that's weird. I've already created a star case on it. I'm end of the day, so I unplugged that. I'm like, that's weird. So I'm going to start unplugging things on the engine just to see. Unplug the oil viscosity sensor and quit blowing it. So that I submitted that to Star. I got paid, I don't remember what, this was back in like 2013. And then they changed the wiring diagram because when Fiat came over here, there was not a single part number for any part on the vehicle, and there were no wiring diagrams. Basically took a car, took it apart, created part numbers for every piece. They laid the wiring harness out, then created the wiring harness. But it doesn't show you what's routed through the PCMs.
Yeah.
You're not looking at that.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't either. I would be like,
Right.
why is this even connected to the computer?
Yeah. Like I could see it going through a BCM, but BCM? Why?
Yeah.
Agree with that. I think the way things are going, especially with technology, that you got to stick to it. You got to get not only just training involved, but going to events, not just for that training, but just because there's people there that are like us that just talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we come like, hey, I had this situation. Let me run this by you. You know, kind of what direction would you kind of point me into? And when I go to the transmission technical seminars, they see and understand a lot of from where I've ran into a problem, where I've ran into an issue, like taking a 6L80 apart every single day. I've got to come up with some random scenario that's in the back of my head that may potentially be a problem that somebody may run into that's not a published bulletin that we see on the aftermarket that people don't even know about. And they're like, you know, I tried to argue against the customer because of that. And then I showed it to them and then fixed it. And then they were like, well, ain't that something?
Yeah.
So it's the conversations like these, getting people involved, investing time to do that. Like, if there was something that you wanted to push a little bit further forward with yourself, would you try to invest more if it's investing in yourself? If you're not getting paid to do, if they're not paying you to go to training, would you reinvest more into yourself?
It depends. I think that dealers and independent shops should be sending their guys to training, not necessarily just factory training, but even aftermarket training, because you're going to learn things from an aftermarket aspect on a different brand. They could be like, I never thought it could work that way. Maybe I can apply this to my brand. And management looks at it as, oh, well, I'm spending this money on this guy. That's money out of my profit.
Yep.
But it's not.
No, because you're going to in turn make them more money in the end.
And it's a tax write-off.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you further your guys' education, you further their knowledge, they're going to be a better technician. They're going to find problem cars quicker. They're going to have more gravy stuff come through because they're not spending time on that problem car.
Yep.
They've already found that problem. They've got it fixed. Now they can go do that brake job that's going to pay you 2 hours.
Yep.
Being an efficient diagnostician that will take their time and go through and figure everything out is profitable.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them that are devalued, that they're only worth X amount of dollars per hour, and you've only get an hour or two, and you can't ask for any more time to go any further than that.
And going back to the original question, I've said many times, everybody's like, oh, what's your most valuable tool in your toolbox? My answer is always the same. Open a drawer and stand in it. Your most valuable tool is now in your toolbox.
Yep.
Like, I don't care how much you spend on your tools. If you don't have the knowledge up here to fix the car, they're worthless. Really are.
Just hunks of metal sitting in a box.
Well, we're going to have to cut this short, and I'm glad you guys made it here to do this. This is really unexpected, but
like you just randomly told me that he was coming up. I was like, I'm game. I'll go. It was an adventure getting up here with flight problems.
That was definitely an adventure.
We made it. It's a good time.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, it's just like fixing a car. Things happen. You got to deal with it.
I agree.
Yep.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.